I never was taught black history. The only thing I was taught in school is about English history.
I've never really seen the school as a place for me to embrace my history. I've never really identified the history that's taught in schools as my history.
Most of the history that I learnt was British and European history. I never saw me in any of that history.
I'd seen the film Cleopatra and I was obsessed with drawing Egyptian imagery, and in my art class I decided to make a huge papier-mâché head. I painted it a sort of, I suppose, kind of a caramel skin colour, and my art teacher said I should have painted it pink because he said Egyptians weren't people of colour.
The thing that was most pointed out to me as a little kid was you're different, your skin looks different, your hair's different. Kids in the classroom turning my hands over and over. There was a particular sort of older girl in our group that if ever the N-word was mentioned towards me, she would say, that's a word that's 150 years out of date, why are you using it, kind of thing. That's really pretty amazing because she didn't have much, access to black history either.
One of the secondary schools I went to, there was only 5 black children in that school. And the maths teacher said to me and 2 other black boys who were there, I'm going to get rid of you effing N-word if it's the last thing I do. Racism was overt. People said racist names. The National Front was prevalent. I literally have scars on my body from being chased by the National Front and being beaten up by them.
I'll put it like this, yeah? My identity in school was squashed. I weren't showed anything that contributed to the development of my identity. Nothing.
If we're going to do anything as black people, we've always been told from our parents, you've got to be 100 times better. You can't just be good. You've got to be exceptional. Quite often, I'll be in a room with influential people in the arts, and I'll be the only black voice, the only black person there. The issue doesn't go away just because we've got a handful of people. And what we want to do is empower more people. We're really pleased that we've got a voice at the table, but we want to get more people round that table. We don't want it to be just a sea of black faces, just like we don't want it to be a sea of white faces. We want it to be reflective of society.
When you talk about classical music, you talk about an art form that is associated with elitism, and it's associated with something that's Eurocentric. One of the compositions I wrote was a piece called The Suite for Solo Steel Pan and Strings. There was the disbelief that a solo steel pan could be taken seriously as a solo instrument. And I remember calling a venue. I got this email back saying, no, we don't program that sort of thing. Not now, not ever.
Unless you study ballet, you're not going to get anywhere within the profession. And it's like, try being a mixed heritage ballet dancer when you know that ballet says that your muscles are too big and your bottom is too big and your feet don't work and your skin is too dark to be in a line of white swans.
I'm a horseman through and through. A lot of people look at me and think I'm joking. In this country, there's a stereotypical image as to what a horseman or horsewoman is. You don't see many black people in England working with horses.
My surname's Browne, but I don't know, if I were to go on some tree, you do your family tree, it's going to stop rather rapidly because I can't go back any further than the Caribbean. So I've always been envious at school when people talked about their great this, and I'm thinking, well, I can't do that. I don't even know what my real family name is.
The words Black British have no roots. Like the boxes that I'm given to tick don't have roots. Remember, this is part of society that's very new, very, very new.
If we don't record our history, other people will do it for us. When other people do it for us, that's when it becomes marginalised or the picture becomes distorted.
The reason we look back into history is to understand our present and to look for the future.
If your history isn't important to you, you're likely to forget it. And if you forget it, you're more likely to repeat the negative parts of it.
So everybody, because we all live in the community together, we all need to know each other's history.
Black history is my history, but it's also your history, and it's our history.
Black History Month in the UK started in 1987, and actually it grew out of civil unrest in the 80s. In the early 80s, we had riots across the country, and the outcome of that was that the government threw money at black organisations. It was those organisations that have driven Black History Month forward.
This year, we're celebrating 30th anniversary of Black History Month, which was a political gesture. It wasn't easy for it to happen. It was a huge struggle. It took about 5 years before local authorities were buying into it. And that has been one of the most negative sides of Black history, because Black History Month has become the preserve of local authorities who don't understand it. It sits in the festival units up and down the country because it's some kind of a celebration, rather than being something that we are engaged in all year round.
And when you start to get big institutions like local authorities getting involved, they seem to want to sort of dictate what happens within it.
Doesn't matter really what organisation generates it, and sometimes they have to be those white patriarchal organisations because they're the ones with the power. What matters is the ambassadors, and the first points of call when you're putting on an event are the right people, the people in the know, the people who are connected, right through to the most ordinary people that are furthest from that white patriarchal organisation.
The circumstances have changed. We're not rioting in the same ways, but the problems haven't totally disappeared. We still are littered with the issues around race, around identity, around inclusion, around access, around visibility, around education, and having a voice.
It's a sad indictment in terms of society today that we need Black History Month. I believe we need it. I desperately do believe we need it, but we shouldn't need it. For 11 months of the year, we just are fed with the stereotypical views from the media of black people. For 1 month of the year, we try to redress the balance and educate people.
It gives an opportunity to talk about narratives in history that you might not otherwise have heard of, an opportunity for people to feel a sense of identity.
I think 30 years of Black History Month in Leicester it's been an interesting journey, because I know that it's changed people's lives.
In my little pocket of the world, not made a change to me. I can't say it hasn't made a change, because there'll be people that it would have made a change to. I mean, they would have went to that one event, seen something that spurred a thought in their head, It's a gesture. And that's the thing for me. It's a gesture. There's not much in it.
That's the job of the next generation, is to thank us for what we did and ruthlessly tear it up and make something different.
I think it's had an impact everywhere I've seen it done, in terms of I've seen many people, black and white, saying, I didn't know that. And even if they go away with one or two facts that dispel some of the urban myths, that's good enough for me.
A little bit of something is a lot more than nothing. So I'm not ignorant to that fact.
No, we should be emphasizing that all year round. We should be highlighting black input in the world all year round, not in 1 month. Because as I say, 11 months you forget about black people, basically.
Ideally, it would be good if black history was seen to be something mainstream that didn't necessarily just happen between October and November, but was something that was woven in the fabric of creative life historical life in the UK.
Until we have a level playing field, until the curriculum is inclusive, until it's an objective, independent curriculum that tells the truth about the history of the world, I'm firmly on the side of we need Black History Month.
There is a really important debate to be had about Black History Month. Nobody owns Black History Month. Black History Month belongs to the broader community, and therefore it is managed, it is produced, it is curated by a range of different players. And those players could be the local authority, it could be your local community activist, it could be a teacher within school. Nobody owns it, but we can all contribute to its future and be part of this ongoing debate.
My children's generation, and indeed my grandchildren's generation, they should be able to look back and see themselves in history and read about themselves in history in a way that when I was at school, I couldn't. And I think that for that reason, Black History Month is relevant and continues to be relevant. How we do it perhaps needs to change.
Who was the inventor of telephones? Nobody know that, unless you're real keen on things like that. Huh? Black man. Yes. I can't remember his name now.